Hello and welcome to Todd Talk, where insight meets inspiration. I'm your host, Todd Hiller, and I'm an author, speaker, and longtime community leader, here to guide you on a journey towards fulfillment and balance. In every episode, we'll explore ways to fill life's emptiness, helping you uncover practical tools to create harmony, purpose, and happiness. Whether it's thriving in your career, nurturing personal growth, or simply finding joy in the everyday, Todd Talk is your space for real conversations and actionable advice. So let's thrive together, personally, professionally, and beyond. This is Todd Talk, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Todd Talk. Really happy to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in and for listening, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates. Today, we're going to talk about people pleasers and self-doubt. This is something I get asked a lot, my TikTok lives and private messages on the side about how to not worry about pleasing people all the time. Because when we do that, when we end up on the people-pleasing train, we end up leaving ourselves behind and our wants and our needs left kind of hanging out to dry and in the wind. And for a long time, I towed that line between people-pleasing too much. And if you know anything about me or if you listened before, you know that I have a servant's heart and I talk very much about serving other people and doing things for others, but making sure we don't get lost in that service to other people. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is people-pleasing in general and how it looks different than serving people and how it looks different than having a real comfortable and balanced outlook and relationship with the other people in your life. So one of the big things I think that we can talk about is don't try to be everything. Settle into who you are, know what you like, and embrace that. For a long time, I always tried to have the perfect answer for everything. I thought so hard about what people would want me to say, about what the right answer was, even if there was no right answer. If someone asked me if I liked pancakes or waffles better, I had a hard time just saying pancakes. I was worried that I hadn't given the right answer and that maybe I should have said waffles. Well, do more people like waffles better? What if someone I like, respect, and admire likes waffles better? Are they going to think less of me? And if they do think less of me, how should I answer the next question to make sure I can make them happy again and make them forget that I said I like pancakes more than waffles? There's a lot of overthinking that goes into people-pleasing. And I have found that so many people are people-pleasers in some way or another. Sometimes it's different on different levels. Some are extreme, some are not so extreme. But I think all of us have it in us at least a little bit. And there's a healthy way to do this, to work with and please others and be helpful and have a servant's heart. So we're going to walk around that and kind of get to that place where it's a good thing rather than something that leaves us feeling drained. And I want to encourage you to do this and be proud of who you are and not worry too much about who you think other people think you should be. Stand behind your choices. Don't worry what other people might think about your decision. The good news is that your opinion of yourself will have a more powerful impact on you in the long run than the opinions of other people. So even if they think I should have picked waffles, my ability to make a decision that I'm happy with is far more beneficial than trying to make them happy with my answer. The better news is that even if we pick pancakes now, that doesn't mean waffles can never be better. When you stay true to what you enjoy and you say what you mean and mean what you say, as the old saying goes, you can walk into a place in your life where decisions will feel easier to make. You'll get into a place where you can give yourself permission to change your mind or form a new opinion without feeling like you're just being wishy-washy with your choices and decisions. So let's break this into some easy pieces. The first piece, I think, should probably be why we people please, but I think that could be its own rather lengthy episode. So we'll leave that and the deep dive into the reasons behind people pleasing for another time or another episode. And for now, maybe we'll start with the how. A lot of us have different ways of showing people we want to make them happy, and we need to make sure we separate people pleasing with loving someone. The people in your life that you love should be met with things to make them happy and make them feel secure in the fact that you love them. You should learn their love languages and how they feel loved and happy and do that for them however you can. The healthy version of that, by the way, means that they reciprocate and bring you the same thing. People-pleasing, which now that I'm kind of working these ideas around in my brain, could also probably sometimes be seen as one-sided love, means that you're going out of your way to be who you think the other person wants you to be, or sometimes it's the case that you are being who you think they want you to be, and that ends up being really dangerous sometimes. When I was much younger, I was in a relationship with a girl I really liked, and somehow during the course of the relationship, I got the idea in my head that one of the reasons she liked me so much was because I dressed nicely at school. You know, I went to school in nicer shirts, polo shirts, or button-down shirts because that was the way I felt good about going to school. I felt like I was a good student that way. You know, I wasn't wearing a shirt and tie or a three-piece suit, but I wanted to look decent because it made me feel good, and it helped me feel like a responsible student, I guess. There was, however, the non-school version of me that existed, the jeans and T-shirt version of me that spent summer vacations working as a carpenter on my dad's construction crew, and the T-shirt and work boot-clad farm kid version who usually had a rip in my jeans pocket and a baseball cap that was more frayed than it wasn't. But somewhere along the line, I was convinced that one of the biggest things I could do to make this girl happy and to make her like me was to dress nicely, because that's kind of how I was dressing when we started talking. So even during summer vacation, when I spent all day in a jeans and T-shirt working construction with my father, I would change my clothes anytime I was going to see her. I wanted to make sure that I was doing what I could to present the person she wanted to see when I showed up. And then one day, I didn't have time to change, and I showed up in jeans and boots and a backwards hat that was likely covered in sweat, a little bit of grease, and a whole lot of teenage boy memories. But, you know, and guess what happened? This is the best part. She asked why the heck I didn't dress like that more often. And I said, what? You know, I was blown away. You know, I'd spent all this time dressing the way I thought I was supposed to dress to impress the people I thought I was supposed to be impressing, and all along it was totally unnecessary. So all that to say that even when you think you know what someone else wants you to do, or say, or in this case wear, it might be way off base. So your best bet is to be genuinely you, and not worry about how pleased or displeased the average person is with that. They get to be them, and you get to be you. And if you spend time being yourself and making sure that you're doing what you enjoy and honoring what you want out of life, the right people will find you. And they won't be people you have to go out of your way to please. They'll be people that are naturally and authentically drawn to the authentic version of you. And man, that's a really great thing when that happens. It's such a beautiful thing when that happens, when you connect with people who like you for you, and you can talk to them about things you are interested in, and then they talk to you about the things they're interested in, and they kind of mesh together and meld around, and you form this really great connection. It's impossible, or maybe just improbable, to find those good, deep connections that will last and that are really fulfilling if you are just working to please people. Because then they don't get to know the actual version of you, and you can't really dive into things with them as yourself, you know, as your authentic self at least. So I think that's a good lead into maybe the what of people pleasing. You know, they have this list of who, what, when, where, why. So we'll go to the what now. So I think that is two-sided. One side is we think about, what do I get out of spending all my time pleasing others? And I think the answer to that is you get a version of yourself that you don't like all that much, or at least you're not comfortable with all that much, because it's not actually who you are. You're working for other people or to make them happy. And I think the other what is, what happens when you can't please people anymore in the way you have been? And this is a really, really big thing and a really big problem. And I think a lot of people struggle with this part of people pleasing. It's the fallout side of things. It's what goes wrong, and it's what happens when all of a sudden we can't do this anymore. So we can't please people anymore. So now what? We've run out of right answers, you know, quote unquote right answers, and we just can't agree with them anymore on things. We can't agree with them on things anymore in the way we have been. So what do we do? What do we do? We get to a place where we run out of the energy to keep going the way we have been going. And what do we do when that happens? I think what happens is we evolve into a completely different person, and then the people we had been pleasing oftentimes get mad at us for changing. And that gets exceptionally difficult because we as people pleasers hate when people are upset with us. or displeased with us. And I think if you're listening right now and you identify as a people pleaser, you feel this probably in your soul. You can think of a time when you felt like you made someone upset that you really wanted to keep happy all the time. And when you made them upset or made them angry, or you thought you made them upset or angry, even if that wasn't the case, it brings this really like just crushing, deep, anxious, awful feeling to your chest and your heart that you've done something so terribly wrong, you'll never be able to back yourself out of it. So now this leads us to a place of being exhausted on every single level, all over, top to bottom, left to right, inside and out. We have the exhaustion that comes from continually trying to please other people, coupled with the frustration and upset that we feel knowing someone is unhappy with us. You know, we hate that feeling. We hate thinking people are mad at us or upset with us. And so no matter which way we turn or look, we are sad and upset and frustrated and anxious, worried, unbalanced, undone. Take your pick. We're all of these things all wrapped up into one. And the other difficult thing when this happens is that it's not their fault that they're upset. So this is a difficult thing for some of us to deal with too. We say, "Oh, well, it's why you're so mad at me now? Like you don't like me anymore." Well, it's not necessarily their entire fault because you have been showing up as a different person all along. You have been pleasing them and putting on this facade of being the person you think or you thought that they needed or wanted you to be. And now all of a sudden you've run out of energy to do that, and you've gotten yourself to this place where you're so exhausted you can't do that anymore. So now you've become a different person, and that's not necessarily a person they like as much or get along with as much, and now they're a little upset about that. So you really can't be upset at someone else if you all of a sudden have done a 180 and become a different person completely. And I don't want you to be upset at yourself either. That's not the point of this. But the idea is if you're going to walk away from people-pleasing and change, you're going to have to remember that some people are going to be a little less happy with you or maybe not enjoy your company as much as they used to. And that's perfectly okay. And we're going to talk about why. So they have come to know you as quote-unquote person A. The way you talk, the way you act, they know the things about you that you two agree on and how you feel about the things that you've talked about. But when you reach your breaking point and the people-pleasing has to stop and you become quote-unquote person B, there's going to be some hesitation on their part and, ironically enough, maybe even a little frustration that someone they thought they knew has done a complete 180 and ended up becoming someone they feel like they don't know at all, which is pretty backwards in the people-pleasing scheme. You know, we work really hard to please people, and when we do it too much and we get so wrapped up in it that we really are exhausted and can't do it anymore, we end up doing the exact opposite of people-pleasing, and we end up making them kind of frustrated or mad. And this is tough. This is difficult. They're not going to like us or at least not going to enjoy our company, like I said, the way they used to. And I think that leads us to the where. And more specifically, the where do we go from here? You know, what do we do now that we've had these people in our lives that we've been pleasing all along, and we got so tired and worn out and burned out and unbalanced and exhausted that we can't do it anymore? Now where do we go? And also, where do we find the balance between being a nice person and a caring person, but all the while staying true to what we believe and we want, but also simultaneously getting along with the people in our lives that we want to keep close? Because that is also a big part of this. We as humans are social creatures, and we like having people in our lives, but we need to approach them and finding them and approach the relationships we have with them from a place of being ourselves and understanding what it is that makes us tick first, and then we can be better friends for them. And I think that right there, the answer to that starts and ends with just what I said, being the version of yourself that you are when no one is watching. Who are you when there's no one around to make you feel judged? You know, what type of person are you? What does that person look like? What do you like to do when you don't base your decisions on what you think the other person might want? I'm sure everyone listening has asked someone at one point in your life, hey, what do you want to eat? And the other person said, well, I don't care. And then when you pick something, they immediately say they don't want that. So clearly they knew, and clearly they care, but we still change our decision and we make a compromise of sorts to figure out what we're going to have for food. But sometimes people will ask us as people pleasers, hey, do you like spicy food? And we want to scream, nope, not at all. But if you're a people pleaser, you assume that the other person wants spicy food because they brought it up. So you say, yeah, that's fine with me, even though it has never been fine, not once ever in the history of eating solid food. You hate spicy food, cannot stand it, but you agree because you think that's what they want you to say. Oh, they asked if I like spicy food. I should say yes because I think that means they like it and that's what they want to go eat. They might be asking because they want to know if we like spicy food because they don't. And they were going to try to make some kind of compromise or offer some kind of compromise. But if they say, hey, do you like spicy food? And we immediately say yes, they might say, okay, well, let's figure something out. But if you had said, no, I hate spicy food, they might have been so happy and relieved and said, okay, thank God, I hate it too. Let's go get something else. But when you respond based on what you think they want to hear instead of responding with what you actually want to say, the message gets lost on so many different levels. So who are you when no one else is around? Where would you go to eat? What would you wear? Would you make pancakes or waffles? Would you go out on a Friday night or would you stay in? Would you rather go on a hike or go on a drive? All these things are okay questions to answer truly and authentically. It's not a contest. It's not a right or wrong. People are asking you about what you want to do. So start answering them with the things you actually like or the things you actually want to do or say. Don't try to guess what they want you to say or what they want to hear. That's impossible. You're not in their head. You're not in their brain. And yes, it's the case that when you get really close with someone, you might know the things they like and love, and you can make decisions based on their wants and needs because you're really close with them. And that's fine. But that's when you're in a really good place and you have been your authentic self with them and you've gotten to a place where you like them a lot or you two love each other. And that's something that's really comfortable because you know the true and authentic versions of each other. That's when you can start guessing what they like and all that kind of stuff. But until that happens, if you're just walking through life with the people that you have in your life and all of a sudden you're trying to guess what they want you to say, that's a recipe for disaster. So being the authentic version of yourself means that you know the answers to questions like that about you. And you're not afraid to be proud of them. That's another big thing. A lot of times we hide in our shell because we say, well, I don't really want to say that. I don't want to answer that way because I'll feel like someone, I don't know, like they might not like my answer. Be proud of your answer. It's okay that we're all different. We all like different things. We don't have to all be the same. That's what makes the world really interesting. And don't second guess yourself because you think someone might like you better if you answer a certain way. Please hear me when I tell you that if you don't like yourself and you can't find a way to be proud of who you are and your decisions, no amount of people-pleasing is going to bring you joy or satisfaction. I have learned in my time so far on this earth that it is impossible to please everyone. But the great thing is you have direct access to knowing exactly what it takes to please yourself and to keep yourself healthy and happy and balanced and feeling good about your decisions. So you can do that. You can know what it is that makes you happy and what makes you unhappy, and you can make decisions based on yourself. And the good news is that you can still compromise with people and make decisions together or as a group without losing your authentic version of you. But by knowing yourself and knowing what you like to do and want to do in the grand scheme of things will help you make healthy decisions and balanced compromise instead of compromise that is very one-sided. Something I have learned that I've mentioned in a previous episode is that agreeing to something you don't want to do leads to immediate resentment. So make sure your group decisions are compromises and you're not agreeing to do something that you will literally dread from the moment you say yes. And I think that maybe can walk us into the who of this. And so who is it that we're so eager to please? Is it our peers, our colleagues, our boss, our parents, our spouse, our siblings, potential first dates, a stranger in the grocery store line? Who is it? Who are we trying to please so much? I think if we make a list of the people we try really hard to please, we may also be able to include them on a list of people who have unrealistic expectations of us. Remember, those unrealistic expectations come from kindness without boundaries. We talked about that in a previous episode. So if you want to listen about boundaries, you can find that episode in the episode list when you're done with this one. But the people you're trying so hard to please are often the same people who are willing to ask too much of you and have no respect for your own mental or physical well-being. So when you look at exactly who we want to people please and who we want to please in this world, or more frankly, who we want to get along with, I think you'll find that the people that will enrich your life the most are the ones who respect your ability to decide for yourself, even if that means saying something that they don't necessarily agree with. We talked about compromise. The right people will understand that sometimes you aren't interested in something or you don't want to participate in something, and they won't judge you for saying no thank you. They won't be angry if you say no to an event or a commitment. Great things can happen when you realize that you don't have to please other people to be worthy. I'm going to say that again. Great things can happen when you realize you don't have to please other people to be worthy. You can be loved, respected, listened to, seen, heard, and appreciated without bending over backwards to make other people happy, and in turn making yourself stressed and exhausted, resentful, or depleted. When you know your worth and understand that you have value without doing things you don't want to do, it will be so much easier to keep finding the things that you enjoy doing. And the more you realize what you like to do, the more you can step into it and enjoy it. And guess what? The best part of this whole process is that when you are in that place of knowing your worth, you will attract the types of people who will give back to you as much as you give to them. You don't have to do things you don't want to do for other people who don't appreciate them anyway. When you start doing the things you want to do, you will find like-minded people that enjoy the same types of things, and your relationship with them can be balanced and beneficial all the way around. And the most beautiful part about that is when you get yourself to that place of being balanced and beneficial and serving each other instead of it being one-sided. Man, it's wild what you can do and how good you can feel about things. It's so beautiful and so crazy how many good days you can have when you understand what makes yourself tick, and you are surrounded by people who also understand that and love you for that. They're not trying to change you. They're happy to have you in their life just the way you are. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been a pleasure, as always. Like and follow along. And if you need more of me, any place you want to look, I am also on TikTok and Instagram if you want to find me on social media with the screen name Todd W. Hiller. No spaces. Profile pictures will be the same across the board. Thanks so much for being here. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to Todd Talk. If you've liked what you've heard, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates or new episodes. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.